everyone, this is Maheen and welcome to the Canadian SME Small Business Podcast. Today we're looking at the democratization of institutional grade finance because in 2026, the line between the retail investor and the big banks is blurring as AI and high-speed data tools become available to everyone from day traders to small business owners. Joining us is Michael Arbus, the CEO of Moomoo Financial Canada. Michael is a 25-year veteran of global capital markets and a four-time CEO. Now at the helm of Moomoo, he is leading the mission to empower a new generation of Canadian investors with smarter AI-powered trading tools. So without further ado, let's dive in. Michael, it's a pleasure having you on the show with us. Thank you for joining. How are you?
I am great. I'm so glad to be here because an unwritten part of my bio is that I actually had some decent successes in small business, and it's where a lot of my passion lies too. So I'm happy to share what it's like to be a big institutional guy by background, but also someone who's run and exited from small businesses too.
That just makes a lot more sense now. And, it will be a very captivating session for our listeners. And we'd love to kind of begin our discussion, Michael, by understanding the AI as a force multiplier. Moomoo is about to launch an AI agent and an API, which seems like a massive shift for individual investors and small teams. Tell us, where is AI creating real leverage for small businesses today?
Well, we here at Moomoo have done two things. We think about it in two buckets. What is it that our clients will benefit from having as resources available to them to help them in their investment journey? And two, as CEO of a business that's growing rapidly, we have to think about how do we transform the way our company operates to incorporate AI into our workforce. So I can speak to that from both what we're making available product-wise to our clients, and for the small business owner or person that's growing their business, how to transform their culture and their entire identity into being AI driven. So I think those are the two foundations and pillars that we focus on, and I could speak to either.
Now, Michael, that was a really great starting point. It helps us understand that giving small teams access to real-time market analysis effectively really levels the playing field against the giant institutions. Now let's explore how entrepreneurs can manage and allocate capital more effectively. To tell us, how should founders approach smarter capital allocation?
Well, we're talking about AI today, small business, large business. Either are you transforming the inside of your own company to be an AI culture, or are you offering features out to your customer base that are AI driven? So there's a whole soup of conversation that's ongoing. When I think to the small business owner and how they can benefit from use of AI and how to introduce it into their workflow, it starts by use case analysis. It starts by I'll say, just as an entrepreneur myself, I would spend 2 to 3 hours right now a day, at least at my free time, watching tutorials, looking at use cases, looking how other CEOs are using AI in the day-to-day operations of their business, and try to think about how can I put that into the context of my business? How can I bring that to our team, which is now closer to 60 people local in Canada and then 150 globally? How do I bring an AI culture so that way everyone on my team, when I walk through the hall, says, I just had my own internal agent perform the following task for me, and now I'm better at my job and I've come to a better decision. So I think the first thing is to step back and say, what is the purpose of me using AI? It's not just about talking to it, asking it a question and getting a response and saying I've got a better response faster than I would have if I had to think it through myself. It's more about saying, what is the use case that I can come up with that is systematic in nature, that is going to help me grow and make decisions as a leader, a manager, or even a worker? And it's a much bigger there's a difference in using AI in that manner versus just asking it for a question and getting a response. And the leadership level, so someone who's running that business and that initiative, is to make sure that my fellow leads understand it too. And we'll do things like conferences where we'll talk to our entire staff over a lunch and we'll say, we're going to first talk about AI. This is a few months back, or almost 8 months ago. Now we're going to talk about use cases. I'm going to talk about how we use it culturally around our organization, how other competitors are talking about using it. All of you should be following the following influencers or find your own list when you're doom scrolling. You have to make it a part of your employees' sort of ethos and get them excited about it first before you then start saying, now we're going to give you some tools. And if you're following AI closely, the cost of tokens is not something that is always affordable for people at all levels of an organization. And they talk about the future of AI genesis within an organization comes from us as employers saying, here's a token allocation. We'd like you to use it just to get smarter and improve your life, improve your workflow. So we started doing that next. So the culture was created, the momentum was moving, and now we gave everyone access to their own AI agents. And now the next step for us is to say, you've got your agent, you understand use cases. How do we all come together and collaborate and store our various skills and use them together and then iterate, iterate, iterate?
Mhm.
That was a lot to take in, but I wanted to share that.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that. It was very insightful. And it tells us that becoming a data-driven capital allocator is what separates a business that survives from one that truly scales. Next up, Michael, let's look at scaling businesses across industries in the age of AI. How do you balance AI innovation with strong team building and execution?
Right. So there's a couple of questions in there. One is how do you scale a business when you've got AI at your fingertips? And I think the important thing to remember is that even if you are an expert in using AI, if your job was a real job in the first place, which is a job that required making decisions or making decisions that will have an impact on your business, that is not going away as a result of AI. It's actually freeing you to make better decisions. So I think the first thing for a small business community to realize is your competitors are using AI. They have brought in the tools, they've created the culture. They are doing this already, which gives them more time to think strategically and make better decisions with better visibility. So we talked about how do you scale with better visibility? It's not about scaling less and saving on cost. It's about making better decisions to position you more strategically to win whatever game that you're involved in. And I think that's a certain frame of AI that leaders need to take. If you use AI for purposes of freeing your time, removing administration from your life, automating as much as you can, iterating on your automation every day, being passionate about it in your evenings, you can free up your brain and your time to make one or two decisions a year that might have a 50% impact on your profitability and revenue. So
Right.
I think that's the scale, it's use of it for scale.
Mhm. And that tells us that maintaining focus and execution while integrating new tech is the hallmark of a high performance leadership team. And this is to all the entrepreneurs that are watching us in 2026. Your edge is quite the ability to use institutional grade data without the institutional overhead. So please don't be that founder who ignores AI until it's too late. Please start using it tomorrow to make your capital work as hard as you do. Now let's explore your transition, Michael, from banking to
Mhm.
leading as an operator. What mindset shift is needed to move from banker to operator?
Transitioning from the corporate world, let's say in finance, into being an operator, as they say, was something that actually takes time. Because in finance, you're typically surrounded by noise and information flow, and your strength is your ability to funnel lots of information down to specific actions and then apply a bit of a financial framework to your decision. And that decision would have a pretty meaningful impact if you had a senior role in finance. When you translate that and you sit in a room on the first day with your own business and everything is silent, you sit there and say, am I wired to come up with my own agenda for the day? There's no information. Nobody is providing you with anything, and there's silence. And a lot of people get very uncomfortable when they don't have their day planned out for them, and there's no information flow, and there's no client base or a historic way of doing things that you just have to improve. You're actually starting from ground zero in silence alone. And that's the scariest part. It's quite daunting but then if you allow yourself to transition, if you're wired a particular way, you'll say, well, great, I'm here, I've got time. If I were to focus on one thing as opposed to 50 things that are other people's priorities, what would I do on that one task? And it takes time. You have to give yourself time to start to create your own noise and start to have a reason to wake up at the same 5:30 in the morning, get your fitness in if you can, get to your desk, even if you don't know what the day is going to look like, and create that day for yourself. And then create that structure. And then eventually create enough scale in your thinking that when you make a decision, you apply the same principles. You find the information that you need to use, you funnel it down to what's important, You apply financial metrics to it, and you make that decision. I'll give you an example. Part of my transition was moving away from an institutional equities trading floor. So I was talking to hedge funds in New York about trade ideas and building a book of business and growing commission revenues on behalf of large banks. And, and I found myself sitting in the room running an oil company in southern Brazil. And then I found myself buying a scrapyard in southwestern Ontario that had 7 locations and a trucking fleet. And then I found myself back in finance. And all three, and even now with Moomoo, when I started here not that long ago, our operations had just started in Canada, and we were a very small team that were relying heavily on third parties. And now we've taken more control back. So when I wake up in the morning, and when entrepreneurs wake up in the morning, it's about creating your own stress, creating your own priorities, being organized. And then as you scale and start adding members to your team, helping them migrate into the organization, setting the direction, but also helping them create their own sense of busyness as well. And I find that kindness goes a very long way in entrepreneurialism. I find that being supportive and encouraging and taking, when you get to be a certain age, you have seen quite a few more things, and some of the young people that might have better access to tools and speed. And if you think of everyone as a synergy, I'm going to help this person in their career, and they're going to help me in what I'm trying to achieve as well. We're both going to benefit from this relationship. And I tend to operate that way. I find scale works much better with kindness and always structure with that idea that at the end, a number has to be applied to a framework, and you have to know why you're doing something.
So really, that move from advisory to operator, it clearly builds a level of trust and resilience that traditional finance it often misses. Finally, Michael, let's look at Moomoo's expansion and the future of fintech in Canada. What is your vision for the future of Canada's fintech ecosystem?
And I haven't talked a lot about Moomoo today because of the audience being small business. And I did want to say that I chose to come to Moomoo first and foremost because when you open up our product, you download it and you see it. And if you're an experienced trader who's looked at multiple platforms globally, or multiple crypto platforms, or multiple gaming platforms, and you open up what we have, what you'll see is that there is I'll call it $1 billion tool available to you right now today. And it used to be that if you had all the tools together and available for someone, and when they click that trade button, we offer a compliant and very safe and regulated way in which to trade Canadian equities and to hold your capital with us. We comply with all the same regulations as the big banks. We are bound to the exact same regulatory scrutiny. In fact, perhaps maybe even more, and we honor that. So the first thing to note is all those big tools are not things that other people prioritize in the fintech sector that historically only large scale fund managers had access to. And we make it easy for you to learn and use those that you will be able to outperform. So we make that all available to you for free. All you have to do is download our app from the App Store. You can open up an account quite quickly, and we're compliant. That's the beginning of what brought me here. Of all the places that I could have gone, I love the product. We have a multi-billion-dollar product that's being made available to Canadians for free that very few other Canadian fintech companies have bothered to focus on, because typically you'll see large financial institutions take your deposits and push you through their funnel to full service if you have any kind of money. Whereas in other parts of the world, tools are being provided to the average retail user. No matter how large you are, large or small, you should have democratized access to all of the best tools. And that's what we were doing years ago. So it was an easy choice. And in Canada, we grow very fast just by grassroots marketing and people downloading and trying our product. We now have physical locations too, just because we're so proud of what we're doing. If you went to downtown Toronto, Bay and Bloor area, Yorkville, you'll see a big Moomoo location. And we're about to open up a second location, in the Markham area. So you're going to be able to come visit us and learn how to use our app in person if you're newer to trading. But the question is, how are we bringing AI to the community? So to further innovate above and beyond downloading our app and using something that most other platforms don't do. If you're big into agentic AI, which if you're a small business operator, not for trading purposes, you should be using AI to create analysts for yourself, to do market research, to come back to you and automatically contact your clients, to use it for customer support, to have an AI agent handling 80% of your inbound call volume and giving 100% success And you get, as a CEO or owner of a business, receiving daily information exactly in the way that allows you to make decisions and see your business if you're on the beach or if you're sitting in your chair. We are starting to do all of those things here in the Canadian office for Moomoo, but that's one side of the equation. What are we doing for our clients is what's important. Our clients, if you are using an agent, if you say, I want to see my net worth in a particular way, and I want to trade stocks in this particular way, and all I need is connection to get information. If you say, I then want to automatically, in a controlled way, through a safe method, use an API connection to provide trade instructions in Canada, we're a registered Canadian broker dealer. We have API connectivity. So if you watch these AI influencers in trading, what they'll say is, I've got a strategy I heard about, I back tested it on my own, and I think I want to build a quick AI agent, Claude, ChatGPT, whichever LLM you've chosen to use or agent you've chosen to use. You need connectivity to market data and feeds and information and skills.
Right. Well, that is truly valuable, and it tells us that combining a high-tech API with high-touch physical support is a powerful strategy for building a truly educated community of investors. This was a great conversation, Michael. Thank you so much for sharing such great insights and expertise. Now that we wrap up, if there is one piece of advice for people, or how would you use AI and investing tools to gain an edge starting today, what would it be?
I think that you have to use AI as a pastime and as a sport first in your personal life, and then bring it to your work second. It can't be a forced on habit that you only use in the office and shut it off at nighttime. Right now, we're in that one period of life where if you have a choice to make, either I'm a part of the future workforce or I'm going to peter out and become the lower end and eventually unemployed. I like to call it the K-shaped workforce. So you've got the upper leg of the K, which is those that chose to make AI a part of their life. And those on the bottom end of the leg are those that have chosen to not make it a part of their life and think that it's not necessary. So here at our culture, and for me personally, start in your free time, when you're doom scrolling, when you have free time in your evenings, think of a project to make your life better, spend money on it. Don't be thrifty with it. I would rather spend money on a monthly subscription to an LLM like a Claude than go to dinner with my family. I think it's a better use for my future and will keep me on the upper leg of that K. So make it your pastime and your sport.
That is a great reminder, Michael, that the tools for success are now within reach of anyone that is willing to learn them. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing such great expertise. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. And all the best to all of you. May you all be successful entrepreneurs and see your dreams come to reality.
Absolutely. And listen, that was Michael Arbus from Moomoo Financial Canada, a masterclass in leadership, capital allocation, and how to use AI to trade smarter in a global market. Thank you so much for tuning into the podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and visit CanadianSME.ca for more resources. To learn more about how we're supporting the ecosystem, please visit the Canadian SME Small Business Foundation at thesmbfoundation.ca. Special shout out to partners UPS and ADP for their ongoing commitment to empowering small businesses across Canada. Please keep moving forward and we'll see you in the next one.